The policemen drew their guns. Now Shmuel became concerned. He momentarily forgot the problem that had preoccupied him. He calmed himself with the reassurance that this crowd would certainly not attack armed defenders. However, there seemed no end to the stream of men and some women entering the station. The group of travelers moved backward towards the platform from which they had come. The policemen did not discharge their weapons. They understood that this throng was simply too large. It would be useless. The policemen would be torn to pieces for killing their countrymen. Thus, as the crowd approached, the gendarmes stepped aside. The crowd chased the fleeing passengers toward the platform where they would be trapped. Many who were not Jews understood the mission of the crowd and did not flee. Instead, they demonstrated, in whatever way was convenient, that they were not Jews. Some held the crosses that hung around their necks. Others genuflected or recited the Lord's Prayer as an illustration of their faith. Such acts were generally unnecessary, as even the most cosmopolitan Jew could be identified by his dress. There was little confusion in the matter. Shmuel had the advantage that he was young and long-legged. He thought, perhaps, that he could outrun his pursuers, leap from the end of the platform, and disappear along the tracks leading away from the station. This plan might have worked had he not immediately tripped over the form of one of his fellow passengers. He sprawled forward, scraping his face against the floor. A man from the crowd grabbed him by the arm and turned him over to examine him. There was no question. Shmuel was attired as a Jewish businessman. The man, satisfied that Shmuel was a Jew, raised his boot and brought it down sharply on Shmuel's forehead. The blow was painful, both to his forehead and to the back of his head, which bounced against the marble floor. But Shmuel did not lose his senses. Wait, Shmuel said. Listen, I've got plenty of money. You get me out of here, and you'll be a rich man. I promise you. Shmuel was relieved as the man hesitated and did not again lift his boot. The man looked around him to see if it might be possible to spirit Shmuel away. Let me see your money, he whispered to Shmuel urgently. Shmuel drew the wallet from his coat. It was fat with bills. The man took the bills and let the wallet fall on Shmuel's prone figure. Please, said Shmuel, get me away from here. The man saw that they were now both in the midst of the angry crowd. The man gave Shmuel a shrug of apology and lifted his boot once again. Shmuel moved his head so that the blow simply opened a large gash in the side of his face. Listen, he pleaded, blood streaming from the wound. You have given me a good beating. You can just leave me here now. It's no problem. The man thought about this. He supposed it was not necessary to do any further damage. At that moment, he was joined by another man who appeared to be an acquaintance. There was a brief consultation. The newcomer shook his head slightly. Shmuel wondered briefly what had become of his sample cases. The newcomer placed a heavy boot on Shmuel's chest, near the neck, and the first man brought his boot down on Shmuel's now immobilized head. All three of them were quite amazed at how little damage was done. The boot fairly bounced from his forehead. No, said the one with the boot on Shmuel's chest. Don't you know that the skull is the strongest bone in a man's body? It's like a rock. You've got to aim a bit lower. The first man nodded, and with great force planted the boot between Shmuel's nose and his upper lip.